Announcing the commencement of the first purge.
I want you to change the world, and don't think that this is going to happen peacefully or you can do it alone. We need to kill the rich. You get out there, you use your weapons, and you rip Washington apart. You hunt down the billionaires, the bank bosses, the CEOs, the scumbags, and the liars, the governors, the lobbyists, the senators, because they're all the same, and you hang them.
Just remember all the good the purge does.
Good morning, everyone. It's May 20th, 2018. I'm Eric. This is a crazy news day here. And it's unusual that I do this on a Sunday, but as you know, I've been very busy with this piece of shit Lexus. By the way, don't buy a Lexus or Toyota because they're fucking junk. The same with BMW. Junk. Alright. Ebola unleashed by Bill Gates and CDC major profit motive. This comes from thecommonsenseshow.com. Dave Hodges is the author. So, as we all know, Ebola is raging through the Congo. Bill Gates recently stated 30 million people are going to die from some unknown virus. The head of the World Health Organization has said the same. The so-called blue wave has fizzled, and the Democrats are not guaranteed taking over Congress. And this greatly increases the possibility of a massive false flag operation, and it is shaping up to be Ebola. Here in the United States, Ebola has been planned for by the actions of the CDC and Bill Gates. For well over a decade, it could be a wild ride. The CDC, NIH, and Bill Gates own the patents on existing Ebola and related vaccines. Mandatory vaccinations are near. And listen, when these vaccinations come, they are going to kill hundreds of millions of people. Have recently reported that Monsanto, or Monsatan as many call them, has partnered with the Department of Defense to use a proxy third-party company to develop a vaccine against Ebola. The seed money began at $1.5 million. The value of the deal could grow to an estimated $86 million. The company's name is Techmura Pharmaceuticals Corporation, or TKMR, or TKM.TO, a leading developer of RNA interference therapeutics. TKM Ebola, an anti-Ebola virus RNAi therapeutic, is being developed under a $140 million contract with the U.S. Department of Defense's Medical Countermeasure System Biodefense Therapeutics Joint Product Management Office. As breaking and shocking of a news story as this has the potential to be, the real story is that this is not the most important part of the Ebola threat which has invaded the United States. The truth of the matter is that these unholy and untrustworthy associations, when it comes to fighting the Ebola virus, represent a mere tip of the iceberg. The more one digs into who is behind the creation and the development of vaccines for treating Ebola, the more the conspiracy networks widen. The most amazing fact is how incredibly easy it was to locate this information. I want to be clear on this point. Ebola was invented. A vaccine for Ebola has existed for 10 years. Some government-sponsored institutions as well as some of the global elite have positioned themselves to profit enormously from the spread of the virus and the development of and dissemination of mandatory Ebola vaccines and the imposition of total martial law in the process. Here's the proof. Human Ebola virus species and compositions and methods thereof, CA 2741 523A1. Amazingly, the CDC owns the patent on Ebola and all future strains. But you know, hey, let's not kill the state, right? Let's continue to let it grow and become even more monstrous than it already is. In your heart, you know I'm right. Deep down in your soul and your subconscious, you know I'm right. The summary of the invention section of the patent document also claims that the U.S. government is claiming ownership over all Ebola viruses that share as little as 70% similarity with the Ebola it invented. Why would a government organization claim to have invented this infectious disease and then claim a monopoly over its exploitation for commercial use? It is clear that the CDC plans to claim royalties on Ebola vaccines. This certainly increases the likelihood that the vaccines will become mandatory, thus increasing the profit potential for the patent holders. And I already gone through the publication number. I'm going to leave the description or a link in the description box below so you can go and check out the patent. Clearly, Ebola is man-made, and this patent proves this contention. Why does the CDC need to own the patent on Ebola? Perhaps we should ask Bill Gates why he is donating $50 million to the UN and the CDC in the name of fighting Ebola. The CDC has partners in fighting against Ebola, namely Crucell, the National Institute of Health, and the U.S. Army Medical Research Institute of Infectious Diseases. And, of course, Bill and Melinda Gates. Since when would Bill Gates not expect a return on his investment? Bill Gates and Michael Bloomberg have already contributed large sums of money to numerous vaccine causes, such as the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, originally launched in 1988 by the WHO, Rotary International, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the United Nations Children's Fund. The return on investment has been impressive. Gates has announced that he plans to vaccinate every child in the third world with multiple vaccines, which could result in a dramatic population reduction of 10 to 15%. Do you realize the enormous profits that can be gotten by vaccinating every child in the third world? If we apply Gates' penchant for investing in causes which produce a hefty return on investment, then one would reasonably suspect that Gates is positioning himself to profit on the $50 million he has invested in the Ebola cause. The NIH presently holds all patents on Ebola vaccines. Crucell is much like Tecamara is to Monsanto in that they are fronting the science for the Ebola vaccine treatment patents. What you're not being told. Crucell is developed or has developed an Ebola vaccine in collaboration with the Vaccine Research Center of the NIH National Institute for Allergy and Infectious Diseases. It has been shown to completely protect monkeys against the virus with a single dose of the vaccine. Under the terms of the agreement with VRC, Crucell has an option for exclusive worldwide commercialization rights of the Ebola vaccine. Crucell's Ebola vaccine entered Phase 1 clinical trials in Q3 of 2006. Two groups of 16 volunteers were enrolled and vaccinated. The study showed safety and immunity at the doses evaluated. In October of 2008, Crucell secured a NIAID/NIH award to advance the development of Ebola and Marburg vaccines with the ultimate aim of developing a multivalent vaccine. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that one. The award provides funding of up to $30 million with additional options worth a further $40 million. There are lies of commission and lies by omission. The media, for over a decade, has been lying to the American people by omission. The work on the Ebola virus, sanctioned by the holder of the patent for the vaccine and or the NIH, has been ongoing since 2004 with clinical trials in 2006. This explains why the CDC and the NIH are bringing Ebola patents into the country to treat. The moment that an Ebola patent crosses the U.S. border, they become the intellectual property of the CDC, NIH, and Bill and Melinda Gates. How can we not believe that this is the Hegelian dialectic run amok in a case of problem creation, solution to the problem, and reaction to the problem? So, we need to expect Ebola to make it stateside at some point as a result of this massive investment by these different governmental and philanthropy organizations like Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. How can any of you with a straight face believe that you have a benevolent government? How can you say with a straight face that President Trump, even if his intentions are good, even if he is what he says he is, can do a motherfucking thing about it? Got two more paragraphs here. When an unsuspecting public is finally told of the existence of an Ebola vaccine, the Global Fund will be in charge of the distribution of the vaccine. Interestingly, Bill Gates has donated a total of $560 million to the Global Fund. That's $500 million. That's a lot of fucking money. The Global Fund has also positioned themselves to be in charge of the distribution of the newly, and that's not newly developed, and not yet announced vaccines for TB and HIV. Since the goal is the vaccination of every man, woman, and child on the planet with multiple vaccines, Gates' $560 million contribution to the Global Fund is chump change compared to the expected payouts as a result. The political direction of this crisis. Years ago, the Department of Homeland Security had taken over plans for mandatory Ebola vaccinations and the imposition of martial law. I have previously mentioned how very few soldiers and police officers will actually realize that they are actually enforcing martial law, since they are merely reacting to a health crisis, albeit contrived, which will involve severe travel restrictions and the quarantining of segments of the population of the country. Further, I have previously mentioned how the UN will partner with DHS and HHS to establish medical quarantine camps, i.e. FEMA medical camps, yet these camps do not have any attached medical personnel, only law enforcement and the United Nations. I'm going to tell you right now, we are running out of time. I hope you all have a good day. Kill the state before the state kills you.